What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are Back Issues. I'm here, myself, Bray. I've got Mel, Tim, and Isaiah, and very special guest star.
It's Brennan!
It's me.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy?
Thanks for joining us. It's so great having you on the show.
No, it's great to be here. Yeah. It was fun.
It's been fantastic. We watched Superman 4, one of the surprisingly in the top worst movies of all time, top 50
I
worst
think
movies
top 50 again this
time.
ranked in at.
Yep.
So that's pretty crazy.
So the second of our top 50 that we've watched.
Howard the Duck.
Please check out our Howard the Duck podcast. You can see our innermost thoughts on Duck Titties. And all the other stuff that's in there.
Even don't watch the movie, though.
I don't want to edit any more videos with the words duck titties in them.
Oh, yeah. We should ban that word.
Isaiah's been kindly taking that task on for us, and it's been wonderful to see the reactions. But
we may provide
we just watched Superman 4 now.
It's sort of like the third in a trilogy of the bad super films as well, right? You had Superman 3 and Supergirl. And then this beauty.
Now, representing the wonderful essence that is nostalgia is the wondrous Tim and Isaiah down the end of the table. The only two of us who have actually seen Superman 4 before.
Many times.
Oh, more times than I can count.
I've seen this a lot. I used to love this movie as a kid.
Dozens of times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Please
Nostalgia is a wonderful thing.
Please jump on and check out our podcast, and you can hear our thoughts whilst we're watching the movie. Lots of nostalgia comes up for these two. However, the threesome down this way, never having viewed Superman 4 before. Immediate thoughts, guys? Do we have anything?
From the Clown Whisperer?
The inciting incident occurred roughly 45 minutes into an hour and a half movie.
Yeah.
So no. Not good.
Not good.
Oh,
wow, I like that.
Starting off high.
I'm not disappointed that this is the first I've seen of the movie.
Wow. I kind of want to throw out there that, like, whilst I appreciate the bad stuff, I also appreciate the nostalgic stuff in this. Like, there's a lot of
there was some good stuff. It was Superman against a clone of himself. You know what? That seems like a warning sign we mentioned, but then I was quickly corrected that
Logan did it.
The best movie, I think, on our podcast thus far that we've addressed as an actual score. I think it received a perfect score from all of us.
Perfect score, yep. All the claws.
All the claws
did Logan get. Okay, so let's start there then. I know this is going to be tough, guys, but let's start with what worked with this movie, and then we can always move on from there. So I'm going to throw this down that end of the table, because I feel like you guys are going to have plenty to say here.
What worked?
Lex Luthor. They brought him back, finally, and he was sorely missed in the last one.
I'm actually going to take the opposite of that. I think that Gene Hackman didn't... I think that this is the one Lex Luthor that Gene Hackman did that didn't work.
It was enough.
But Chris Reeve, bar none, perfect Superman. The casting for him in 1979 or 8, whenever they cast him, perfect. Chris Reeve was amazing as Superman.
There's never been a better Superman.
Underutilized, underappreciated in this movie, perhaps, but I mean, he gave his all. You gotta appreciate at least his commitment to the character.
See, but he's acting for this, like, Marlon Brando starring, Gene Hackman starring vehicle that came out that was a pop culture phenomenon that they've turned now almost 10 years later into a kids movie. And he's still bringing the, like, gravitas that was required to prove a man could fly. Now he's doing it in like, even the credits are less epic. And it's the same thing. They even made them colorful this time around, right? Like, it's very just much so. That's the movie. Like, it's just, I don't know.
But for you, what worked? Like, other than Christopher Reeve,
the story worked.
Story?
You know what? Like, the broad strokes.
We'll get to that.
The broad strokes story.
Nostalgia's a wonderful thing.
On paper, it's Bizarro. It's Bizarro Superman. It's the Superboy clone. It's a lot of cool concepts that could have been made. In fact, the screenwriters from this also made Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, which
one of my favorite Star Trek.
One of my favorite as well. It's a great movie.
But like, aside, it's hard to be objective because, like, again, I loved this movie when I was a kid.
It doesn't hold up.
It does not.
No.
It does not.
The stuff that was scary then, it's like they earn your loyalty in the first couple movies. The first Superman and the second. So it's like you don't need to see that. So they don't give you any flashy effects. There's nothing really good. It's like it's all callbacks to that. But you still get the same Clark Kent and the same Superman, and that's almost enough to drive the plot forwards.
You don't get the same Lois.
No, you don't.
She's
drunk,
stumbling through her lines, barely.
Okay, wait. I think you guys are delving into our next part though. So we should.
For me, it's literally just Christopher Reeve, his shining light in the movie. That's kind of the only thing that like really worked all the way through.
All right, fair enough. And so the story for Tim. So for the three of us who have never watched this movie, like just straight out, like what worked. If nothing worked for you, that's totally fine as well.
That's totally fine. Yeah.
But yeah, Brennan, for yourself?
I think what worked for me was the love triangle where Lois Lane was in a relationship with Clark Kent, but was actually in love with Superman, and there was another lady whose name I don't know.
Muriel Hemingway.
Yeah. And she was in love with Clark Kent, but Clark Kent thought she was in love with Superman, and they all almost had an erection together, but never did.
Nobody got laid. Yeah, it was unfortunate.
It's almost like a false square rather than a triangle, because Superman's kind of two people.
So that's why in this movie the red underwear saves the day, or else it would have been blue balls.
Yeah. Well, it was an original love story.
Okay.
I've never seen that one before.
Points for creativity.
I like it.
Yeah.
So we got an original love story.
I thought some of the costuming was pretty cool. Not all of it, but some of it was pretty cool. Classic Superman costume. I think we commented on it in the last one that we watched, but I still like it.
It still works.
Some of the other costumes were great, and there was something else. I'm just searching my brain for it though. There was something else that I liked. I can't think of it right now.
Was it
Come
the
back
end?
to me.
Yeah.
Was it when it was finally over?
For me, this movie is... I actually understand the nostalgia value with this because I'm watching this and I'm seeing a live-action version of a Superman animated cartoon come to life before my eyes. Like, this movie is directed at kids, and I can see that. Like, if I was a kid and I'd actually watched this movie, I would have loved every single second of it. So I think like the target audience for this movie was really clear and well defined. Superman 3, I felt like they were trying to be too smart. This Superman movie in my mind is something that has probably inspired the likes of like Monsters Inc. and Toy Story and a lot of those sort of animated kids films that are kind of taking those good values and
like Minions,
sort of smashing them in our face a little bit, but also having that adult let's put it in quotation marks, humor, because I'm not 100% sure if they fully intended what's funny about this film, like as time went on. Whereas some of those animated films, like they feel timeless, you know, like it doesn't matter when you watch them, you're sort of like, oh, that's sweet. This has the moment, but it's not fully like sweet. It's more like, oh, they were trying to do that.
For that movie is Superman 2, the timeless one that is like smash 'em up, kid fun stuff, and it's smarter.
Yeah,
Zod is just a better character.
Yeah, I haven't seen Superman 2, so
still really.
Well, hey, since we've begun this, you know, I can't go watch it now
backwards.
without you. I just gotta go jump straight in.
You're in a committed relationship.
I'm in a committed relationship right now.
It only goes up from here.
It's a good relationship.
On behalf of the character of Superman, I'm sorry for introducing you to these two movies first.
Yeah, me too.
These
I
are
didn't
like
realize.
the worst of the worst.
The worst of the worst.
I have a great respect for Superman from like my childhood and what like the source material was back then, in the animated and all that kind of stuff. So like this is great to see like what people thought, because this is 3 and 4. Like
1 and 2 are really good. That you know what, 1 is really good.
It's always
way
the way
to drop
that
the ball.
Yeah, really.
talking a lot of good stuff though at the moment, guys. I feel like we should probably.
That's nostalgia.
Yeah.
Hey.
I feel like we need to cast nostalgia aside and really go there with this, right? So what didn't work? Come on.
Oh my God!
Come
Yeah,
on,
come on, bring out your
Everything.
kryptonite claws.
Most
You know what?
everybody.
Let's start down this end because I want you guys to
Yes.
stew for a little while, okay? So
The movie suffers from like generic 80s
No.
bad guy.
You're gonna have to
gotta wait.
I was
You're
gonna
gonna
make
have to
it
wait.
make it
Alright.
explode.
Yeah.
We'll see
Yeah.
how long we can draw this out.
I want to see how
Let's
much
draw
we
this
can
out.
make this like.
No butting in,
bubble.
Because
I'll be super quiet.
we'll hear their thoughts and we'll
see.
be like, good points, but this is why it sucks for someone who loves
Yeah.
this movie.
I want to start with our very special guest, Brennan.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh.
What didn't work with this movie for you, my friend?
Well, most of it. I did, in full disclosure, fall asleep during the fight scene because I just wasn't interested in what was happening.
He also got up to go and pee as well.
I did do that.
Yeah, right as the
I
elevator
I think
sequence.
I turned around at one point. I was like, "Oh, where'd Brennan go?"
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting, but it wasn't that interesting. And the thing I really wanted to point out, though, was the space physics that were going on. They had a lot of different things happening.
Yeah.
So Superman can breathe in space. He's the only person who can talk in space, as well as I don't know. It's just like it's just over the top. It's ridiculous. The very first sequence has nothing to do with the movie. There's a Russian dude singing a Frank Sinatra song on a space station, and then basically the film Interstellar happens, and then Superman saves him.
and gravity.
Gravity.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
It was possibly the best part of the film. I'm not sure.
Exactly. And then as he's like, taking the poor Russian astronaut back into the space station, he's the only one who's able to talk and not be vacuumed out by there not being any form of gravity there.
Or air.
Or air. There's not
air.
rushing
Yeah.
past him or anything.
Yeah,
I mean-
there's no air molecules for him to vibrate.
I want to defend that scene. I want to defend that scene.
All right, if you want to defend it, go for it. We gotta have it.
It's obviously a it's a meta commentary for the entire thing. Obviously, this was the height of the Cold War, like towards the end of it.
Superman saves the
Superman
Russians.
saves Russians at the beginning of the movie, being like,
Okay.
"Oh, Superman's gonna save everybody."
But he does it with an appeal to emotion, like Donald Trump.
I
That's what I mean.
Ignoring
Like,
facts.
I feel like we could justify every crappy thing by saying it's meta. I don't.
Wow.
No,
think
I mean, like,
that
obviously,
is
Yeah.
okay.
that scene sticks out like a sore thumb because it has no narrative purpose aside from being like Superman loves the world.
Brennan, any other?
It's just an incoherent mess.
Cool.
Yeah.
Rockin'. Mel, wanna talk
Oh,
any more on this
I
incoherence?
second this 100%. I found it was so hard to even get engrossed in the story because I was too concerned with all of the flaws and holes that were like wildly obvious. Superman flying with Lois Lane, holding on to her hand like a child like this, and the hair's blowing, but there's no other kind of I don't know, if you're going that fast, there should be some I don't know, G-force cheek action or something, and it's just gently, holding the hand out here, and Lois Lane's like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. Whereas in real life, she'd be back here. There was a moment where he grabbed onto her around the waist, which I was like, okay, I can suspend my disbelief for that. But that was for a second, and then we went back to this.
Well, to be fair, when he grabbed onto her waist, he also threw her away from himself, and then she flew through the air, but down very slowly and gently, and then he swooped down and grabbed her and kept on flying.
Can't you throw something really fast like that?
Yeah, so it just goes in a
I do
perfectly
not have
straight
that
line.
skill. Maybe
He
that's
did-
an American thing.
He did
I don't know.
throw the bums to the sun faster than the speed of light.
In the
apparently.
giant space net.
Yeah, it
Yes.
took like seconds
Yes.
instead of 8.5
Giant
minutes.
space net. Don't get me started.
I'm pretty sure
Doorbell,
I read that
don't
the
get me
cables used to suspend everybody were called disbelief during the movie, and so like
Were they
it's pretty
suspended?
accurate. I think they were. They lied.
Oh man.
There were just too many things that I
And then
couldn't
what
ignore.
happens when you see the cables in the elevator scene?
Yeah,
What
then you're like,
happens?
it's a meta commentary in a box.
Clearly,
All the
they
meta.
needed the other 19 million. Like,
Yeah.
they needed it.
Yeah. I think I can be pretty. This is one of the few times where I think I can be pretty succinct with my what didn't work with this movie. The people that wrote the story and also everybody that was involved with this movie, and I'm really sorry to say this, I don't mean any offense whatsoever, but you don't understand Superman. Like, that's kind of the basic, simple premise of this movie. You're very kid-centric and you manage to snag onto the core principles of Superman, but Superman got healed by a green crystal that is clearly kryptonite, which held the essence of Krypton, so therefore it is kryptonite, and Superman got healed by kryptonite, and he got hurt by nuclear fission, or whatever it is that you want to call this nuclear man. Like...
But solar radiation, basically.
Yeah, solar radiation. The very thing that powers him. So the nuclear man is powered by the sun. So therefore he's powered by solar radiation, which is the very thing that gives Superman his power, and yet you're saying that... I can go on and
now
on
the
about
worst
this,
part
but-
about this is I'm pretty sure that the Superman solar battery thing came in the John Byrne run. Was that the Birthright one in like 1990 or 89 or whatever? And I think it might have actually been inspired in some way by this terrible film. Isn't that weird that like some of the broad strokes concepts that got reappropriated into Superman lore come from like... Because don't forget, they did a special issue of this comic book for Superman 4. Like, okay, nostalgia aside, like, they were cool, big operatic concepts, but just executed so terribly.
How is that operatic? Where was the drama?
Good versus evil. This movie has clearly defined villains and
That's
heroes.
not opera.
Yeah, it is.
There was some
It's
singing
loud
at the
and
beginning.
musical.
Opera's messy and confusing.
I think it's the tragedy element of opera is not really present in
this.
Is it like meta opera? Maybe.
At the Met.
Maybe it's a meta commentary on opera.
Ooh.
Ooh.
All right,
meta.
That's a
nostalgia fans. I'm gonna like officially throw the ball.
This
down
is
Get
here.
Superman
5
right
minutes.
What didn't work with Superman 4?
The effects.
Take a
Well, so like the strings are visible. The physics. Nobody thought about physics. Nobody thought about anything. I don't know. And like, it's so lazy and it's so half-assed.
Yes.
And you could just, it's terrible. It is literally one of the worst movies ever made. But I love to make fun of it. I love watching it.
Enjoy it. I like it.
love it. I love it to bits. But yeah, it's indefensible. But I will try to defend it.
hey, that means something unto itself. All right.
But yeah,
Mr. Tim.
He really just kind of nailed it right there. But it is not one of the worst movies ever made, necessarily. It's one of the worst, what's supposed to be best movies ever made. So it's like, it reminds me of like the Ewok adventure. You know, it's like, as a kid, I have immense nostalgia factor for it. Conceptually, it's great. Just some family in the Star Wars universe crashes on Endor and has an adventure unrelated to the Jedi and the Sith and the Empire. And it's like, that's cool. There's magic and things. But if we watch it, which we probably will end up, it's brutal. Like, it's like some guy's farm they're filming at. And like, you know, like it just does not, like the ideas were there. You can't take what was a phenomenon and cut the budget 3 times over.
yeah.
You know, spend the first attempt to do this again, give a celebrity $5 million or a fifth of the budget of your film, and it doesn't hit, and then blame the film.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, they should have given Chris Reeve more money. Like, and there was development of like a Superman 5 working at the time. I have a lot of nostalgia for this. I still enjoy it conceptually. Like it is. It's a big cartoon. And if they knew it was a kid's movie, and it just seems like the producers thought that's what it was. I think the writers and the actors were trying for something, at least some of them. Chris Reeve wanted to do something important with this movie, I think. And we did go there. We were talking a little bit of politics.
Chris Reeves had like a producing
and a story credit.
Yeah.
Like Leonard Nimoy got for the Whales and like, don't forget, wow, I wonder if these writers had a little bit of a political agenda, but they were also doing the Cold War allegory with the Klingons in Star Trek 6, right?
That's true. Yeah.
The Undiscovered Country, and it's like, so,
but I think... That was post
Berlin Wall falling. But still, it was like, like they had good vision. It just was not executed at all properly. And the fact that you can still see the strings, it's like, the Muppets and Take Manhattan is executed more beautifully than this. And that's where it's like, it's just a bad movie. So, I don't know. This used to give me a recurring nightmare of this super villain. And it was like one of these nightmares where I'd like fall asleep and like continue these awful adventures fighting this like irrational being that you couldn't negotiate with.
You couldn't reason with him at all, could you, Tim?
No. I pride myself on my ability to be rational.
Well,
anyway.
in trying to reason with stuff, and reason with ourselves, I think at this point in time, we have to like boil it down right now.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, and figure out what we want to rate this movie.
Ooh.
Now, the all important question, as always, is what is our rating system? I feel like there's a couple of options, but
elevator coffins.
Elevator coffins. All right.
I can't remember who came up with it, but the roofie kissing.
Roofie kissing.
Roofie kissing.
Super scratches.
Super scratches.
Yep. I have to throw into the ring, betrayed.
Echoing betrayals.
Yeah.
Echoing.
I forgot that scene was in this movie.
That was,
or is it? It's betrayed. It's betrayed.
That was something that really worked about this film.
Yeah. The law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
You can go first.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
You know what? I think I'm right in the middle with this movie. And I actually enjoyed this movie a lot more than Superman 3 and Supergirl and Masters of the Universe. So the whole like continuum of this, I think mainly because I did have that nostalgia value of kind of being like, wow, I really feel like I'm seeing Superman's core values in like his public face as well as when he's tackling bad guys. The subway thing was my big thing for this, is when he's like saying that the subway is still the safest like form of transportation in this city at this point in time at this place, and then he flies off. I was like, that's wonderful. Like, it's very Boy Scout. Clark Kent is called the oldest Boy Scout that you will ever meet at one point in time in this. They make a lot of references to that. Yeah. And in the current day, we don't see a lot of that. And so I feel like the core values
the big
of
blue
Superman...
Boy Scout.
Yeah, I feel like the core values of Superman are beautifully encompassed in this. Like, he seeks, like, the right resolution. Where I fall off is the fact that they didn't understand Superman, as I've mentioned with the Sunstone, if we want to have that as a reference, it's kryptonite. And Lex Luthor wearing a wig, I'm like, I can never get on board with any Lex Luthor that isn't bald. I'm just going to throw that out there. That's my thing.
Mostly they give him a one scene where they bald cap him.
They didn't in this movie.
Yeah, but
not
they didn't.
At all.
They didn't at all in this movie, so I can't give them any credit
for
that. Yeah, they didn't have the budget for that, right?
But the stupid thing was Gene Hackman is clearly balding. I know. In this movie, so it's like he chooses to wear a wig, but it's a wig that makes him look like he's balding.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of scenes in this movie where I'm like, I don't know, the flying thing,
the recycled flying
fight choreography as well is really bad. So I'm gonna give this 2.5.
Whoa.
Betrayeds. Ooh. And so that would go a little something like this. Betrayed.
What did you say?
That was really dramatic.
That really increased as I said it as well, right? So yeah, two and a half betrayeds for me for Superman 4: Quest for Peace.
I love it.
Let's go down this way. Actually, let's go down this way.
Down the end, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna say, you know what? It wasn't great, but some enjoyment was had. If for no other purpose than to have a little laugh at all of the holes, it was enjoyable. I would be amenable to it being played, in the background while things are going on and that kind of thing. I wouldn't necessarily sit down and focus on it again, but I'm going to give it 2 betrayeds.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nice. Betrayed. Yes. I tried to keep it as same.
Very succinct. I like it.
I think everything is able to refer to itself and is therefore meta, because we're conscious as human beings of our own mortality. So I think Superman 4 is conscious of its own mortality, and also
and
that
all
it's
of ours.
dead. So I'm going to give it 1 betrayed.
Ooh.
Just like this. Betrayed.
That's so meta.
Okay.
Oh my gosh,
are
there's
we
so
sure?
much weight in that.
It's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight in
I feel
that.
like I did something
We're
wrong.
sure that's the line, though, right? He didn't say betrayal or something else. Like it's betrayal.
No, it's
I heard it
betrayed.
at least 5
It's
times.
gonna be really embarrassing if we're saying the wrong word.
The wrong
Anyway.
word.
Yeah,
It
but I
was
think
so
that just
emphasized in
commentates
my
on the movie
brain.
a little
Wait.
more if
Do you
we're saying
think-
the wrong word.
Do you think someone's actually going to go watch and check?
Yes.
I will.
You know what, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to prove us wrong, go and check out our podcast and listen to it the whole way through and see if you can pick out what the
And
line
you can tweet
is.
us at. I'll
Betrayed.
just add that in later.
Dot.
All right, out of our 2 nostalgia fans, who wants to go?
I'll go first. Let the Superman fan be the anchor.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, Isaiah is our Superman superfan.
When we do Batman 89, I'll bring up the finale. All right, I'll go.
All right, Tim.
Superman 4: The Quest for Peace gave me a recurring nightmare when I was a kid. Not even kidding, for like years.
Third time.
4
Still recurring.
years. And it was weird. It started off, there was like a wooden football field or baseball diamond or something. And there was like, it was made of wood, like a bowling alley. And then these like, do you remember that old Fisher-Price castle? And they had those like flip around like trap doors?
Yeah.
Yeah, those things. And they like enveloped everybody into the field. And then I had to like go down into the underworld of the baseball field and find everybody that had been like taken underground. And Nuclear Man was their like enforcer, and he couldn't be reasoned with, and he was like the Minotaur of the maze, or like it was terrifying. And he had all these people, and they were all like in like an alien kind of stasis in these like buckets with these like bugs that were like crawling up and down this like slime webbing that had like trapped them in their bare feet. And weird, right? It was preparing me for this review all those years ago, perhaps. Anyway, the movie is not so good. It doesn't quite hold up. It was really weird and traumatic, and so I give it a 3. I liked it. 3 betrays.
Wow.
The nostalgia factor really was fun. This was fun. I would watch this again with kids. I would like to, if, I'm an uncle
people who
one
don't
day.
understand.
Yeah. You know what? It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's shorter than, like, The Hobbit, which is maybe less fun. Like, this is more rewatchable. It was like a water slide you've been on 1,000 times.
So,
So I give it 3 betrayed. So I give it betrayed. Betrayed.
Ooh, very guttural.
Yeah.
Very guttural. I like it.
It was good. Nightmare inducing.
It's interesting how the emphasis increased.
Yeah. So did the regret.
All right, Superman superfan Isaiah.
Oh yeah, like I said in the podcast, you should check it out. Yeah,
Actually, it's probably going to come across this way.
It's going to be really disappointing if we can't figure out how to put that on.
I know, right? So all these links appearing everywhere. Anyway.
This was my favorite, like I said in the podcast, this was my favorite Superman movie when I was a kid. But I'm talking like 6 years old. It's like we never watched the third one often because we didn't like the bad Superman. It scared us. And then like the first one I thought was boring, and the second one, I don't remember why I didn't like the second one as much. I don't know. Anyway.
Romance.
But on rewatching this, I've seen it dozens of times. I don't know. It's not bad. It's not great. It's not... Nothing really holds up, like all the effects, the acting, everything about it's not good. Tries to say something, but it's like kind of also dangerous in that, oh, Superman can solve the world's problems. Superman can get rid of the nuclear threat, which is kind of a dangerous thing to like put out there.
But he can't, right?
But it's such a bad good bad movie. It's like it's so much fun to watch for me anyway. I love bad movies. So for me, it's probably straight down the middle. It elevates it a few points because of Chris Reeve. So I'm going to also give it a 2.5.
Woo!
Yeah! Bookend with the 2.5 Betrayeds. So I'm going to start, So Betrayed!
just cuts off.
That's it.
Yeah.
Cuts off.
Yeah.
That's it. I like it.
Like
I
the
like
tape ran out of.
Yeah.
You taped it off the TV.
Technical.
And it's
Yeah.
Like somebody like
Yeah.
took their like big clippers and clipped it.
Sweet. So as the biggest Superman fan here, like what would you have done to make this film like even better, memorable? Like what would you have done to this film if you had creative control?
If I had read this script, I wouldn't have made it. Honestly, like this is a bad Superman movie. There's no reason that Superman needed to be in this movie. It's no reason that it is a Superman movie, and I guess that's the worst problem with it is like it's not a Superman movie. It's just kind of a movie with Superman.
Mm-hmm.
action hero.
Yeah,
movie
and like
is what it
is.
is.
It's just,
Action superhero movie.
in concept. I see like it's Bizarro or whatever, but like make it Bizarro then. Don't make it Nuclear Man.
Mm-hmm.
Make Gene Hackman shave his goddamn head. Put a bald cap on him.
Yeah.
Get rid of Ducky. Make sure Margot Kidder wasn't drunk when she was on set. I don't know. There's like, you basically have to throw out this entire movie and restart from scratch to make a better movie.
But was Tony Danza the better movie? Could you imagine?
Hey, if they had cast Tony Danza, well, they did cast Tony Danza, and if Tony Danza had made this movie,
Hold me close now.
who knows? Who
Tony
knows?
Danza.
But yeah, I don't know. It'd be hard to make what is currently there better. Like, there's no like easy fix for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you really have to fundamentally change what this movie is about.
What if you had that 40 extra minutes of the first Nuclear Man?
I don't know what those 40 extra minutes are like. Maybe this is a better movie than I think it is.
Maybe.
That's my thing. Just again, this is one of those page one rewrite type of movies for me.
Cool. Tim?
I agree. It's an antique. It's like the last vestige of an old dying era. I don't think... the irony is they probably would have never made Superman 5. The budget would have been too small. It would have been laughable. I don't even want to imagine what that might have been. And so, through whatever, life happened and they had to do something else. Yeah. I don't know. It's just every point is right. It should have been Bizarro. Should have been Superboy or Parasite or any version of an actual Superman character. Kryptonite should have been a thing that affected him. They could have actually maybe gone to the Fortress of Solitude instead. Actually I read the Kent Farm was still standing in Toronto or just outside of Toronto where they filmed the original Superman movie. And they just didn't go there. They just built it somewhere else. And that's sort of in England somewhere. And just whatever. And it's if this was your main, information dump sequence and they got everything so wrong. page one rewrite. I mean, as a kid, it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, having that Bizarro type relationship. But this was the thing when we were kids growing up with these kinds of movies. It was like, how do you make this fun kids idea palatable for adults enough that they'll pay to make it? And that we used to have to convince them. And now the ones that are making all the money are the ones that just go right to the source material. You know, and you look in there like they just embrace it. They jump in with both feet, and they render something that grown-ups and kids can love. And that's sort of the mistake on this movie. They were like, well, we can't make him some monster in makeup. That'll just look ridiculous. You know, even what if they'd taken that junkyard scene and actually worked that into the psychology of the character, and he's been wrestling with his own inner demons, and it's informed the character by this point in the franchise. And then when Luther clones him, it is like a literal like transporter accident that makes a dark, conniving, evil Superman for the whole movie. Took the best part of the third one and made it the fourth one. That would have been a movie that just could have really done this. Chris Reeve could have gone as the full villain, you know, embraced that. Like, that could have just, you know, what could have been. But yeah, nostalgia is a wonderful thing. This movie looks awfully rosy, so
yeah.
Nostalgia's like hindsight.
All right, so Brennan, we're gonna skip ahead and go to your pitch for the movie. Sorry, I just fucked up. Right?
I would have just never included an inciting incident. No, but if you look at it, the very first bits of the movie were kind of like a weird political commentary, and then the last bit of it was just this senseless, almost environmental / psychological commentary, which was just bullshit. And so I would have just taken the vague nonsense that had happened in the first half and self-immolated and just allowed it to become its own thing from what was already there, because there wasn't anything, but to acknowledge that and push it further might have been interesting.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can try to pull out of this.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. Mel?
I would say I feel like there were no stakes whatsoever in this film, and that really bugs me because it didn't allow me to overlook all of the gross holes in the story. So if I had attached myself to some characters or some relationships or some stakes, I think I would have overlooked a lot of things, but I didn't. So it was ultimately flawed in almost every way. Yeah. Some more solid relationships. I really liked Christopher Reeve, but I liked him before I saw the movie, so I feel like that's irrelevant. I was always going to like him. But having me care about something would have been good. Really good. I got a lot of love to give, and there's nothing to give it to in this movie.
Wow. That's a tough crowd to follow, ladies and gentlemen. But back issues crowd, don't worry, because I feel like I have a solution to all of our problems at the moment. I actually strongly disagree with our two nostalgia friends down the end. I think you're missing something that is really simple with this movie. But also appease yourself, Brennan, and potentially Mel as well. But if we take our inciting incident and we actually have it happen within the first 5 minutes of this movie, I think if you take Lex Luthor creating the Nuclear Man and you have that happen within the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie, Luthor has escaped. We don't need to see him in prison or anything like that. He's working with his nephew or his lab assistant, whatever it is. Nuclear Man is created. An explosion happens, and that is what is insightful in a space station in the sky, getting knocked out of space, and then Superman just happens to be coming through. He solves that problem, but then he goes through, and then it's Nuclear Man and Lex Luthor straight off the bat that are causing problems for the rest of the world.
And Superman doesn't see it's related, the space station.
No,
but
he does.
It's like radiation or something from that's powering him.
Yeah. But that then is a nuclear incident, and Nuclear Man is powered by nuclear fission.
So he
needs bombs, or he needs the nuclear reactors that are around the world. This then inspires Superman to say to the UN that they need to get rid of all of the nuclear weapons that are on Earth and do all of that kind of jazz. And then Nuclear Man is continually fighting against Superman the entire way to stop this from happening. And so you have this story that is able to reflect the topical notion of the time, I should say, but it is continually like working from the very first moment that this movie begins.
Sorry to just
and then you would have made the film Godzilla.
Well, you would have.
Yeah.
But imagine that.
Could've.
And Zack Snyder could actually direct that movie. And it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, imagine they're fighting on Mars, and they're firing nuclear weapons at the surface to, like, or Luthor is. Maybe he's, like, used an AI or Brainiac to get a hold of, like, the bombs, and they're, like, being fired, and you're on the surface of Mars, and it's a punch-out boxing match as, like, mushroom clouds erupt around them. Debris goes flying, you get, like, radiation burning them, cooking them off, the cape is going, and they're still fighting in, like, slow motion. That would be very cool.
Yeah, but
that one little tweak.
The major thing there, right, is Nuclear Man is powered by the nuclear explosions, and Superman is powered by the sun. So when Superman is hurt, Nuclear Man, being just the brawn that he is, not the brains, throws Superman into the sun, and then it's the sun that heals Superman.
Heals Superman
so
by his own
You get
hands.
rid of the whole kryptonite thing because it's the sun radiation, right? So I feel like with very small tweaks you can make this movie like I know there's a lot of budget restrictions here, but I feel like if you do this in the simplest possible way, like you just do it on set scale, and then you save the budget for where it counts, which is like the UN scene and then the Superman fight scenes, you know, that would have been my way of solving this movie. And I think it would have like hit all of the topics that we're kind of like, this doesn't make sense, you know. So
and with grown-up eyes, you can see those flaws.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're looking, you're like... As a kid, maybe you're not so focused on the cars driving by. You know? But it's like, you're like, there are no cars here. Or like Masters of the Universe last week. We're like, there are no extras in this town. Actually, there's like 6 people in this town.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You don't really notice that when you're a kid, right? You're like focused in on your characters. But
being a kid is great.
it's great.
It's awesome,
Seemingly,
right?
yeah.
Guy, you're so forgiving when you're a kid and you're watching a movie, right?
Yeah.
And then you grow up and turn into us.
Yeah, back issues!
Current issues and future issues. Oh my goodness.
Oh man, we have had a wonderful time this evening talking
Yeah.
to you guys about Superman 4: Quest for Peace. As the first time running through, man, this was a cool adventure. Brennan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
this
man.
evening.
It's a real
thanks.
treat.
It was great.
Having our
Yeah,
former
thanks.
boss on the show,
Yeah.
brilliant actor and director.
Thank
It's
you.
been a real treat. Brennan was the first guy to give me direction in probably 7 years for like acting direction, and it was like
Boy,
a real
did
treat.
I need it.
And I don't, no joke.
Tim's
From-
great.
Well, yeah, but seriously,
yeah,
I
but
don't.
do we
There's
have-
not a day that goes by that I don't think about that.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
thank you.
But do we have like as a collective, my friends, do we have any like parting words for Superman 4 that we want to impart to the wonderful Back Issues audience?
If you like movies like Birdemic and The Room, Superman 4 falls right into that. Just terrible, but in the best sort of way.
Nice. Yeah, I would agree. I would like if you want a fun movie to have in the background whilst you're like playing some board games or like drinking some beers or anything like that, like totally throw Superman 4 on, because you can just tune in every now and then and be like, oh my god, this is ridiculous.
I would buy all
Have
those
some fun.
toys too. If they did Luthor in that jacket. I don't know about Lenny.
Tim, you buy all the toys.
Okay.
It's not really a big comment to make.
Well, there's no Nuclear Man figure, and there ought to be. So that's an issue I've got.
Yeah.
But that'll have to be a future issue. Thank you for joining us.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Back
Thank
issue.
you so much, ladies and gentlemen. You have just joined in with Isaiah, Tim, Mel, and Bray with the very special guest starring of Brennan Campbell with us this evening. Please check him out on Facebook. Check us out
Like
on
him,
Twitter,
subscribe.
Instagram, and YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, my friends.
Tweet us at Back Issues.
Yeah, at Back
I remember.
Issues.
That's a fact.
Please check out our podcast that is
Yeah.
involved with Superman 4. You get to hear some of the movie and us talking shit throughout it.
The struggle is real, as is the quest for peace.
I feel like that's a good place to leave it.
Yeah.
Whoa.